My name is Michael Carter, and what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story, it's a confession. Halloween night, I made the worst mistake of my life. I tried the Bloody Mary ritual. You think it's just a harmless dare, a silly chant whispered in front of a mirror. But what I saw that night, what followed me after, it's still in my house. Still waiting for me to look again. They say if you say her name 3 times, she appears behind you. I thought it was fake, a myth. I even recorded it for a Halloween video, something stupid for views. But when I turned off the bathroom lights, and the candle flickered out on its own, I realized I wasn't alone. The mirror was breathing, fogging up from the inside. That's when I should have stopped. But I didn't. I laughed and called her name again, and again. The 3rd time, everything went silent. My reflection didn't move. It smiled. If you're watching this right now, don't test it. Don't say her name. I'm uploading this because people think it's just a legend. It's not. She's real. She's listening. So before you scroll, before you turn off this video, hit subscribe, not for me, but so you'll know what to do when she finds you. Because she always does. She always finds you, especially on Halloween night. It started as a joke. My friends at college dared me to do it, saying it's just a Halloween tradition. We'd been drinking, laughing, telling ghost stories, the usual late-night chaos. I laughed it off too, but somewhere deep down, I wanted to prove I wasn't scared. Not of mirrors, not of legends, not of her. So, I waited until midnight. Everyone had passed out. The dorm halls were dead quiet, except for the faint hum of old pipes and the ticking clock above the stairwell. The bathroom was ancient, built long before the college was renovated. The tiles were cracked, and the mirrors, tall, arched, and fog-stained, looked like they'd seen too much. I put a single candle on the sink, locked the door behind me, and lit it. Its flame faltered as if it was also anxious. My reflection flickered in the low light. I breathed shakily, smiled nervously, and acted brave. Bloody Mary, I said the first time in a whisper. Me, almost laughing. Nothing happened. The candlelight trembled, but maybe it was the draft. Bloody Mary, the second time, the faucet dripped once. Just once. And the air grew cold, like someone had opened a freezer behind me. I almost stopped there. Almost. But my pride wouldn't let me. I leaned closer, close enough to see my breath fog the glass. Bloody Mary. The candle went out. I froze. I couldn't even hear my own heartbeat. The mirror didn't reflect me anymore. It reflected the room, but empty. My reflection was gone. And in the distance, from inside that reflection, came the faint sound of a woman humming, a slow, broken lullaby, echoing from somewhere that didn't exist. That's when I realized, the game had just started. At first, the silence felt harmless. Just the hum of the old pipes and the faint flicker of candle smoke rising into the stale air. I told myself it was just my nerves, that haunted feeling you get when you're alone somewhere you shouldn't be. But then, I heard it, the sound of dripping water. Slow, rhythmic. I glanced at the sink, bone dry. The shower taps are tightly shut. Still, the dripping continued, echoing from somewhere deeper, somewhere inside the mirror. I leaned closer, squinting at the reflection. My pulse was pounding in my ears. That's when I saw it. My reflection's lips moved, but mine didn't. For half a second, it smiled, just slightly, like it knew something I didn't. I stumbled back, knocking over the candle. The flame sputtered and rolled across the cracked tile before dying out completely. Now the room was soaked in darkness, only the pale moonlight creeping through the tiny window. I could still see the faint outline of the mirror. And then I heard her. A whisper, right behind me. Michael. I turned around, nothing. Empty stalls, no movement. Just the same slow dripping sound, closer now. I turned back toward the mirror, and froze. My reflection was gone again. The glass was rippling, like water disturbed by a drop. Something was moving behind it. A shadow, tall, feminine, swaying slightly as it leaned forward. The surface bulged outward, stretching like skin pressed from the other side. My breath caught. I whispered, "Who's there?" The mirror answered back, but not with words. The ripples spread, forming bloody streaks that spelled out 3 shaking letters. Run. That's when the light above me buzzed once, and her face appeared right over my shoulder. I took a deep breath and whispered her name. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Each word echoed off the cracked tiles, bouncing back to me like the walls themselves were repeating the chant. The air turned heavy, pressing against my chest, and the small candle flame on the sink began to dance violently, left, right, left, as if caught in a storm that didn't exist. My breath fogged the glass, but then I realized, the mirror was fogging on its own. The frost spread across the surface in strange, swirling patterns, like fingerprints dragging from the inside. And then, through that blur, I saw her, faint at first, a shadow behind my reflection. She wasn't moving, yet somehow I could feel her eyes on me, watching from that cold layer between worlds. And then, I saw it. In the corner of the glass, a second hand appeared. Not mine, thin, gray, fingers too long. Its nails were chipped and caked with something dark. Slowly, that hand slid forward until it rested on my reflection's shoulder, and at the same moment, I felt it. Cold, so cold it burned. I froze. My eyes darted to my shoulder, nothing. Empty air, but my skin tingled under invisible pressure. I could feel each fingertip pressing into my flesh, tighter, deeper, until I thought they'd break through skin. The mirror fog pulsed again, and words began to form on the glass, written backward, scrawled by something unseen. I see you. The candle guttered out, plunging me into near total darkness. For a moment, the only light was the faint moonbeam crawling across the cracked tiles, until something moved inside the mirror. A face emerged, pale, smeared with red, mouth torn wide in a smile that didn't belong to the living. And then her whisper filled the room. "You shouldn't have called me." I spun around. Nothing. But when I turned back toward the mirror, she wasn't inside anymore. She was behind me. My throat became parched. Like a muffled drum reverberating through the pipes of that damned dorm bathroom, my heartbeat thumped in my ears. I slowly turned my head out of fear that she might be waiting just out of my line of sight if I moved too quickly. However, nothing was present. The only things that gleamed under the dying flicker of the overhead light were the pale, aged, yellowed tiles. It was oppressively quiet. For a moment, I let out a shaky laugh, whispering to myself, "It's just in my head." But when I looked back at the mirror, I froze. My reflection was smiling, and I it wasn't just a twitch or a trick of the eye. It was deliberate, controlled. My reflection's lips curled upward slowly, showing every tooth in a grin that felt wrong, stretched, like it was enjoying the fear leaking out of me. My own face looked older in that grin, the skin pale, the eyes sunken, lifeless. That I stumbled backward, shaking my head. No, this isn't real. But my reflection didn't move with me this time. It stayed still, smiling, watching. Then, it raised a hand. My hand stayed at my side. It dragged its finger down the inside of the mirror, leaving a long red streak that looked like blood smeared across glass. And from somewhere deep behind that reflection, I heard it, a laugh. Low, raspy, feminine. The mirror began to ripple again, the glass bending inward like something was pushing from the other side. My reflection tilted its head, its grin widening until it nearly split the skin of its cheeks. Then it whispered, perfectly in sync with my own trembling voice, "You called me. Now let me in." The lights went out completely, and in that blackness, I felt her cold breath brush against my ear, not from the mirror, but from right behind me. With my heart thumping so hard that I thought my ribs might burst, I staggered back. This isn't real, I whispered, my voice trembling and broken. However, my fear was not shared by the reflection. It was too quiet. As it slowly lifted one trembling finger and pointed, its smile persisted. Directly, at the darkened stall behind me. A chill ran through my spine. I turned, pulse roaring in my ears. The bathroom was dead silent, except for the faint buzzing of the overhead light, swinging slightly as if something had brushed against it. I stared at that stall, the third one from the end, the one I'd locked before starting the ritual. I remembered turning the latch. I heard the click. But now, it was moving. The metal door shuddered once, twice. And then, with a long creaking groan, it began to open. Inch by inch, the sound sliced through the air, shrill and metallic. The smell of mildew and rust drifted out, but beneath it was something else, something like rotting flowers. I couldn't breathe. My body screamed to run, but my legs refused to move. I looked back toward the mirror. My reflection was gone. The entire surface had turned pitch black, like it had swallowed the light around it. I could see nothing inside it except faint movements, ripples, shapes, like hands pressing against the other side of the glass. Then came the whisper. A woman's voice, soft but soaked in venom. "You left the door open, Michael." My throat tightened. I shook my head, backing away toward the exit. But as soon as I reached for the handle, the stall door slammed shut with a thunderous bang. The lights flickered violently, flashing between darkness and blinding white, and for one brief second, I saw a figure crawling out from underneath the stall. Her hair was matted and dripping, her face pale and stretched too long to be human. She looked up and smiled. I froze, the candle shaking in my grasp. The air around me got thicker, heavier, and wetter, like the walls of the bathroom were breathing. A quiet but harsh murmur came from inside that stall. Michael. The sound wasn't echoing, it crawled, like something living, coiling around my spine. I let go of the candle. The small flame sputtered and flared twice, and nearly went out. Shadows spilled across the walls, making them look long and twisted. In the cracked mirror, my reflection didn't move. It stood completely motionless, eyes unblinking, lips twisted in a faint, knowing smile. Michael. This time, it came from within the glass. I staggered backward, my sneakers slipping on the wet floor. The sink behind me began to drip. One drop, two, then a constant cadence, each drop sounding louder than the last, echoing in the silence like a ticking clock counting down to something inevitable. My reflection leaned forward, its forehead pressing gently against the mirror. The glass shimmered, rippling like water. I could feel her breath, hot and nasty, against my cheek. "Say it again," she whispered. "Say my name one more time." My chest heaved. I didn't mean to. The reflection smiled wider. "But you did." Suddenly, the lighting overhead flared wildly, buzzing with a deep electrical hum. The sink burst, splashing rust-colored water that smelled like rot and copper. The walls began to breathe, in and out, as faint handprints appeared, smearing down the tiles like someone clawing from the other side. Then I saw it. The stall door behind me, the one I knew I had locked, was slowly opening. The hinges moaned, scraping like bones crushing together. My reflection pointed toward it. Her hand, no, my hand, pressed against the inside of the glass, the skin pallid and cracked like old porcelain. Her eyes blazed red. The whisper came again, but not from her this time. It came from behind me. "Michael." I spun around. The stall was wide open now. Inside, darkness pooled thick and heavy. Something shifted, just barely. I saw a face, contorted, coated in blood and shadows, eyes vacant, lips twitching into a grin too broad for any human. I lurched back toward the sink. "This isn't real, this isn't." The mirror rippled again. My reflection reached out. Fingers emerged through the glass, damp and frigid, grasping my wrist. I yelled, but the sound was buried by the darkness. The thing in the stall came closer, her footfall wet and unsteady. The stench of iron permeated the air. As her face came into the weak candlelight, I saw her completely now. Bloody Mary. Skin pale as bone dust, eyes black pools, mouth stitched with streaks of red. She leaned near to my ear. "You called me," she hissed. "Now take my place." Before I could move, her chilly palm slammed against my chest, and I was yanked backward, straight into the mirror. Glass shattered without a sound. Everything went silent. Now I'm standing on the opposite side. I can see the bathroom, the candle still glowing on the counter. But it's not me holding it anymore. It's her, smiling through my eyes. She turns to depart, murmuring, "Goodbye, Michael." And I'm left here, locked behind the glass, screaming, but no one can hear me. Only my reflection smiles back. Suddenly, the mirror cracked, not once, but with 3 jagged lines spreading like veins across the glass. The sound was harsh, like bones shattering under strain. I stepped back, eyes wide, when something dark began to pour from the cracks. Thick, slow, almost alive. It dripped down the mirror's surface and splattered into the sink, spreading like the mirror itself was bleeding. "Don't turn around." The words crept into my ears, chilly and shaking. I froze. I could sense something behind me, but I didn't dare move. My throat was dry, my body tense, and my mind screaming to go, yet my feet were nailed to the floor. My voice cracked as I said, "What do you want?" The reflection smiled, but I didn't. Its grin spread broader, inhuman, and too big for a human face. The voice came again, low and moist, echoing from the other side. "Your world, for mine." Then the blood surged outward, splashing against the walls, dripping down the tiles, and flooding the sink in thick crimson waves. I lurched back, falling over the candle. The light flickered wildly as I gazed into the mirror again, and what I saw wasn't my bathroom anymore. It was a lengthy corridor of mirrors, going into black infinity. Then, everything stopped. The blood evaporated. The fissures shut themselves as if they had never existed. The air went silent, no sound, no movement, simply my faint breathing filling the emptiness. I glanced at the mirror, trying to convince myself it was over, that it was just a trick of the light. But then, at the very center of the glass, dim and almost invisible, I saw it. A pair of eyes, watching me, blinking. And this time, they weren't mine. I shouted and hurled myself at the door, but it remained in place. Smooth wood, no way out. The handle twisted pointlessly before disappearing beneath my palm. A faint tremor ran up my spine as the mirror behind me started to hum. My mirror cocked its head and smiled, a stretched and distorted smile instead of a human one, and I turned, terrified. Its eyes started to leak blood, leaving thin streaks on the shattered glass. It lifted its hand and touched the mirror's interior with its palm. The air felt cold to me, as if the glass were breathing ice. "Stop, please stop," I whispered, but the reflection just laughed inaudibly, its lips widening until the skin split at the edges. As though drawn by unseen breath, the candle's flame twisted and leaned toward the mirror. My ears throbbed with my heartbeat. The wall was already against me when I attempted to retreat. Like water trembling before something surfaces, every reflection in the glass began to waver. Then I noticed her hand piercing through. Her blackened fingers, dripping red, slipped into the air as the glass rippled and twisted. Her palm brushed the sink, leaving a smoke trail of blood, and I stopped, unable to scream. She was going over. Her icy, limitless eyes locked with mine. The words, "trade places," slipped through my mind like an icy whisper. I touched the door with my palms, but the wood throbbed alive beneath my fingers. Not through the glass anymore, but from inside the room, I could feel her fingers brushing against mine. That's when I realized, I had stopped staring into the mirror. I could see myself in the mirror. Every breath felt like swallowing ice as the bathroom air became thick and nearly solid. My lungs refused to cooperate, and my chest constricted. Shadows were stretched across the tiles like crawling hands by the candle's violently flickering light. My vision blurred as a piercing ring filled my ears. I clutched my head as I stumbled forward, and when I looked up, she was there. With her skin as pale as bone and dark veins pulsing beneath her translucent flesh, Bloody Mary's hand had completely broken through the mirror. Her fingertips dropped thick drops of blood, which hissed as they came into contact with the sink. She had long, sharp nails that resembled shards of glass. Whispering, "No, no, no, this isn't real." I staggered backward. Then I sensed the chill. That wrapping around my wrist was impossible and extremely cold. I glanced down. I had her hand on me. It's not a reflection. It's not a trick. Actual. She was solid, drawing me in as the mirror shook around her arm like water. I had lost my reflection. Her pale, smiling face, hollow eyes, and crimson tears were all that was visible through the glass now, instead of me. Her voice was deep and layered, like 100 voices speaking through one mouth, and she whispered, "You called me. You're mine now." Her hold tightened as I attempted to pull my arm away, causing my skin to feel like frostbite. My hand's color started to fade, and my veins started to hurt. With the exception of the faint, eerie glow emanating from the mirror itself, the room was completely dark after the candle went out. She became more powerful. I bumped into the sink with my shoulder. The mirror's surface sucked at my arm, pulsing like liquid. My fingers slipped on the damp, cold floor as I screamed and clawed at the tiles. My other hand struck the door. It was now soft and melting, like rubber. The room was bending and warping in the direction of the mirror's pull. My hand was sucked up to the elbow by the glass as it stretched. The voice of my reflection, or perhaps hers, started muttering my name repeatedly, more quickly, until it was just one continuous sound, Michael. I could feel myself being pulled forward, 1 inch at a time. I felt the glass cutting against my neck as my shoulder went over the surface, but there was no blood, only a scalding cold. Now, my screams reverberated inside the mirror, but they were warped, distorted, and unnatural. Everything paused for a moment. The drawer relaxed. I believed I was safe. Then, with her black eyes inches from mine, she leaned in close, her face pressing against the glass until it cracked. "Repeat my name," she muttered. "So you will always remember it." My body collapsing forward and the sound of the mirror closing behind me are the last things I can recall. Now, at midnight, when the bathroom light flickers, I'm still visible in the mirror, they say. Not moving, not breathing, simply observing. I gave it my all in the battle. I kicked against the sink, my shoes slipping on the damp tiles, the metal ringing like a bell in a deserted church. Her cold, inhuman hand locked like stone around my wrist, and my hands ripped at the air. I screamed until my throat hurt, but my voice didn't reverberate. Instead, it sounded as though the bathroom had muffled all of the sound. That sick, gleeful smile that stretched too far and was too human to be mine simply widened on my reflection. No, her reflection. After a final violent flicker, the candle next to the sink died. I was in complete darkness as the flame hissed. All that was left was the weak flickering of the fluorescent light above, a faint hum that seemed to be fighting for its life as well. My own heartbeat was thumping quickly and irregularly, and beneath it was a rhythmic, almost playful whisper that said, "Come closer, closer." My shoulder screamed in agony as the cold hand started pulling me closer and closer to the mirror. Every time I moved, the glass rippled and pulsed like a black liquid, no longer even solid. It felt like it was consuming me completely as it crawled up my arm. Blood mixed with water and whatever dark fluid seeped from the cracks in the mirror as my fingernails scraped against the tile. Then all of a sudden, bang! A loud crash. Light flooded in from the hallway as the door exploded open. Ryan, one of my friends, stood there looking horrified. His voice echoed sharply this time, breaking the silence like ice as he yelled, "Michael!" The mirror burst. It exploded, not splintered or cracked. Like bullets, shards flew across the room, clattering on the floor and embedding themselves in the walls. I was thrown backward by the force. My arm broke free. The wind was knocked from my chest as I struck the tiles hard. Slipping on the damp floor, Ryan hurried forward. He shook me by grabbing my shoulders. "Mike, wake up, Mike." However, I was unable to speak. I was unable to breathe. My ears were still ringing from that distorted whisper, and my mind was still in that mirror. Then he stopped. His face turned white. He vowed, and he still does, that he saw two of me in a single heartbeat. One version crumpled on the floor before him, lifeless and limp. The other was being pulled backward by pale, bloody hands while standing inside the shattered mirror, partially visible through the shards. The mirror fragments on the floor started to vibrate as Ryan yelled my name once more. He briefly noticed movement inside the shards, not reflections but changing shapes, as tiny cracks crept across them. Faces, blinking eyes. And I blinked back, deep inside the shattered glass. He slammed the bathroom door behind him as he staggered out. The restroom was deserted when everyone else in the dorm started up. As if nothing had happened, the lights flickered back on. The puddle on the floor was the only indication of what had happened. It was blood, not water. The mirror's fragments were cold and smooth after melting together. Ryan continued to yell that I was still inside and that he saw me reaching out and attempting to return when they dragged him away. However, no one took him seriously. The faculty claimed that I had fled after the glass broke and that it was a prank gone wrong. Ryan, however, is aware of what he witnessed. Additionally, his reflection occasionally smiles a bit too late when he stares into the mirror for too long. The steady beep of a heart monitor and the pungent smell of disinfectant greeted me as I awoke. I briefly believed that I was still trapped in that nightmare, in that bathroom. But then, with the sterile light humming overhead, the white ceiling came into focus. It was like sandpaper in my throat. My wrists were burned. I noticed that both arms had deep, finger-shaped bruises when I looked down. Hours after everyone had left, the doctors reported that I had been discovered unconscious in the old dorm bathroom. Dehydrated. Cold. They dubbed it shock. However, no one could explain why the cuts kept reopening, as if something inside didn't want to heal, or why tiny glass shards were embedded deep into my palms. I was told that I was fortunate to have survived. I didn't feel fortunate. I could still feel that cold hand gripping my wrist and pulling me in the direction of the mirror even after I closed my eyes. The faint, mocking tone of her whisper, "You called me, now I'm with you," was still resonating inside my skull. I believed that it might be over when they finally allowed me to leave the hospital. For weeks, I stayed away from mirrors in bathrooms, on phone screens, and on car windows. However, you can't get away from them forever. I was brushing my teeth the first time I looked into one again. The lights wavered. I briefly caught a glimpse of her behind me. She had dark eyes, a pale face, and a faint smile that seemed to indicate that she had been waiting. I blinked, dropped the toothbrush, and she was gone. The odd thing is, though, that she never really leaves. Since that night, she has appeared in every mirror I have examined. Faint at times, like smoke on glass. Standing in the corner of the reflection, her lips moving just a little bit out of time with mine, sometimes clearer. And nothing is there when I turn around. Nothing but quiet, simply the icy sensation that someone else is in the same room as you. I no longer tell others. They claim it's hallucinations or trauma, so no one believes me. But I know what I saw in my heart. I am aware of what I called forth. My wrist marks have never gone away, and they sting like invisible hands tightening again when I stand too close to a mirror. Now, the dreams begin in October each year. The sound of water trickling, the soft hum of a candle flickering, and her voice, always, always, quiet, sweet, right behind my ear, whispering my name. And it's Halloween night tonight. I sense her once more. The temperature drops. The mirrors fog for no apparent reason. She's closer than ever when I gaze into the reflection, grinning, awaiting, because she never leaves once you call her. So if you ever feel brave enough to try the Bloody Mary ritual, remember my story. It's not just a game. Once you call her, she never stops watching. You might think it's just an urban legend told to scare kids at sleepovers, but legends, they start from truth. The mirror doesn't forget the face that calls her. Every time your reflection flickers a second too late, every time you feel a cold breath on your neck while brushing your teeth, or when the bathroom light flickers for no reason, that's her. Watching, waiting, smiling. They say she marks her chosen ones, through mirrors, through dreams, through silence. Maybe you'll hear your name whispered softly while you're alone. Or maybe, one night, you'll see someone standing right behind you when your reflection moves just a little too soon. That I learned this the hard way. Because sometimes, she doesn't just come for the one who called her, she comes for the ones who listen to her story. So if you're watching this right now, don't look into a mirror tonight. Don't test your curiosity. Don't turn off the lights and whisper her name. Because she loves when people don't believe, and if you do, just remember, the next reflection that smiles back at you, might not be yours anymore. Iron Speech Bubble. If you're brave enough, hit subscribe before you turn off your screen, because next Halloween, she might come for me again, and you'll want to see what happens when she does. Skull.